Unity of the Huachucas presents Susan Smith, LUT. The Garments of Truth.
Again, it is my pleasure to have Susan Smith come up and give the message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. And I love those lyrics. All right. Well, just synchronicity is just the word of the day today. So this week we had a Valentine's Day, which coincided with Ash Wednesday. Does anybody observe Ash Wednesday at all? Or you might have growing up. I know people have different traditions. Some people are Catholic and New Thought. We accept it all, right? You just come on in here and be you. So it was an interesting coinciding, wasn't it? And I thought, I had a friend growing up, and she would always give up like chocolate. And I thought, I hope she gives herself a day, because Valentine's Day. Was it just me? That was interesting. So anyway, so when I sent out my little form to let Tanya know what I was going to speak about, I was in the midst of studying this book. It's by Reverend Linda Martella-Whitsett and Deanna Ware-Mornsey, and I've taken a class from them. I'm doing a study. It's such a great book. It's called Discover Your Divinity, and it's a modern guide to affirmative prayer. And I just highly recommend it. It's an amazing book. And in here, she was talking about denials and affirmations. And I thought that would be a great thing to talk about because it's such a cornerstone tool. And as long as I've been in Unity, I can always get back into it and always learn more and dig in more and understand what that means. So I thought, that's what I want to talk about. But I want to title my class, the talk, Denials and Affirmations. So I found this lovely quote by Myrtle Fillmore, and I thought, I'm just going to go poetic this time. So that was the quote. The quote was, "Clothe your mind with the garments of truth, and let your thoughts yield to you their wealth of spiritual power." And how do we do that? One of the tools is through using affirmations and denials. It's through affirmative prayer that we use affirmation denials throughout. Okay, so that's why the garments of truth, if you're wondering. And I'm really going to talk about affirmations and denials a little bit. And I'll probably have a little fun with the with the metaphor, just so you know. Like that little kitty up there is looking pretty fun too. So anyway, in case you're wondering, but I just love the synchronicity because I did not even realize that Lent was this Wednesday when I came up with that. And then, and that song, and it just always works out so well. So I apologize for being a little mysterious. It wasn't intentional. I was trying to be poetic. And, so I think that's funny that you would say that. And I'm like, it's so perfect. And then I realized it was Ash Wednesday. Lent started. It seems really early this year, right? Last day of Easter is the end of March. Mm-hmm. And then last Sunday, of course, it's not coincidental because of Lent, but the minister at Unity of Tucson talked about Lent, what it means in New Thought. And then I saw Reverend Charlie's wonderful newsletter. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it. It was so well written. And I'm going to use it as a guideline for my talk today. Because here's how she defined Lent. And I love it. Let's eliminate negative thinking and let's enlist new thoughts. So that is a great way of looking at Lent. And if the word Lent bothers you, use whatever, let it go. That's okay. But if you can reinterpret it and find it in a way that supports you, let go, eliminate negative thinking, enlist new thoughts. And you know why I like the word enlist? Because it's helping us move forward. It's enlisting us to live our life in a higher and best way. It's enlisting us to shine that Christ light. So I loved her language, so I'm going to use it. I'm just going to, thank you, Reverend Charlie, I appreciate it. And I just thought that was really fun, synchronicity there, and how that happened. So this morning I'm going to talk a little bit more of what I mean when I say I can't even remember what I said, her wonderful quote, "Clothe your mind with the garments of truth." What I'm meaning by that, I'm going to lead us into a meditation to kind of ground us in that truth. And then I'm going to spend a little time talking a little bit about how we can use denials, or what Linda Martella-Whitsett and Reverend Deanna Morrissey are kind of changing to the word negations, which I actually really like because I think that's kind of a nice change. You get to use whatever. Traditionally, we call it denials. and then how we can use affirmations. And not so much just a positive thinking, but how we can stand in our power. How can we just stand and know the truth of who we are, no matter what's happening. Because this is a spiritual practice, and positive thinking is always great. It's always good to get rid of negative thoughts, and always good to think positive thoughts. But what I really want to focus on is spiritual thinking. Spiritual in the idea. So I will kind of give some clarification on that. Any positive, getting rid of negative, thinking positive is good, but we really want to ground ourselves in truth. Because that's the thing that helps us get through those conditions and circumstances that we find ourselves challenging. And, life is just challenging sometimes. I love what Reverend Deanne and Reverend Linda, and I'm really going to reference Reverend Linda a lot particularly, but Reverend Deanne also wrote the second book here. What they've done is they call us divine humans. And I just love that terminology. Divine, you're a divine human. And it recognizes the beauty of our humanity. Our humanity is so beautiful. Our humanity is what makes our hearts ache sometimes. Our humanity is what gives us compassion. Our humanity is what gives us awe and people's strength and resilience. That's what I love. So I love that term, divine human. That's the little pathway for us today. So don't worry, I just don't want to scare you. So I think the kitty's appropriate. I like it. So first of all, what do I mean by clothe your mind in garments of truth? And what we're talking about is truth. It's just what we say in our 5 principles. And basically the first truth, there's one power, one presence. Number 2, each and every one of us is an expression of that. So we can clothe our mind, we can think thoughts that ground us in that. And one of the teachings from this recent book that they wrote together is the idea that really kind of ground yourself on one principle. Thinking you're all of God and all the principles can feel really a lot. So I'm going to encourage you during this Lent period, or however you choose to use these tools, to focus on one area that really you want to focus on. God is forgiveness. God is love. I am forgiveness. I am love. I am wholeness. I am, whatever that is for you. For me, it's connection and oneness. That's our second principle. That's what we believe. We believe we are all connected. We're all expressions, divine in expression, God in expression. So that's what I'm personally focusing on. And I do find something about grounding, and I don't know what that is for you. But I'm going to encourage you, as you think about this idea of eliminating negative thinking. There are other acronyms, that's why I get confused. And enlisting new thoughts. What are those new thoughts? Where do you really want to ground? What is that principle that I can really identify and know right here and now? And kind of focus on it. So that's what I'm going to encourage you. As far as the metaphor for clothing, I just thought it was kind of fun to think about the fact that we can choose our thoughts, and we just like we kind of choose our clothes, right? We choose our clothes, and there's certain guidelines and things we have to pay attention to with our clothes. Like, okay, you get up in the morning, well, there's the practical nature of your clothes, right? There's just practical considerations. You have to dress for the weather. You have to dress for the conditions. Sometimes your clothes is kind of an armor about whatever's happening. It's really cold out. We need those warm clothes. On Friday, I was going to a memorial after work. I work in a very cold, very dusty, very dirty warehouse. Very dusty and dirty. And so I try to be presentable. I certainly try not to smell. This is, I know it's a low standard, but, I try to be presentable and clean. This is, when I go in. I'm clean, it's a sweaty day. I'm not promising about the other thing. But, by the end of the day, who knows? But I try to be clean and presentable. But I don't wear my nicest clothes by any means. They get dirty, they get dusty, I just wear kind of like your paint clothes. They're my work clothes. So I'm not super dolled up. Not that I'm a super dolled up person, but I had a memorial, and I had to get dressed for the memorial, and I changed my clothes. And and one of the ladies I looked for, she's like, "Oh, you look nice." And I'm like, "Oh, well, this is the real me." I had to think about that for a minute. So what am I don't know. That's food for thought. So practical matters matter, and just the same thing as our thoughts. We choose thoughts about practical matters. And what I'm going to encourage you as you go through this Lent period, as you think about exercising this tool in a more focused way, is What are those practical things, and what are you thinking about them? Practical things like going to the grocery store, doing your house cleaning, doing the dishes. What are ways that you can really ground yourself in spiritual principle when doing those? Eliminate negative thoughts and enlist positive, new thoughts. Where can you do that? For instance, I was at the grocery store, and there was lines. It was last Saturday, not yesterday, but a week ago. And I think it was something to do with the Super Bowl. I'm not sure. It was so crowded. I was in line for 20 minutes. And I could have just been, and it's very easy. Well, why go self-check? Why don't they have more help? You know, we could just go there. But my goal right now is connection and oneness. There's so much of that. So leaving those thoughts behind. They're not helping anything, those complaining thoughts. That's negative thinking. Letting go. Let go of eliminative thinking. And then instead, enlisting new thoughts. What are the new thoughts? Oh, look at the oneness in this cart. The number of hands, the number of hearts, the number of people that touch the materials that we have to survive. The divine design in the food that we are able to have. And all of the inventions, all the creativity. And so I'm just, I'm thinking of that. I'm letting, I'm like, oh, I can be creative here. Got out my phone, started doing my Wordle. I caught it really fast, by the way. Then I started talking to someone behind me, learned a new recipe, learned what they were doing for Super Bowl, and I connected in oneness because I let that go. I'm not saying that those thoughts didn't come, but those aren't oneness. That's not connection. There's oneness all around me. Right? I'm not a victim. That's victim competition. That's limited. Now, I'm not saying I don't think it. Conditions didn't change, but my attitude did. So clothing, we choose our thoughts practically. We also choose our thoughts based on culture, just like we do our clothes, right? I was listening to Heidi Klum on this interview the other day, and I mean, she grew up in Germany, and I tell you, they have a whole different idea of modesty. And I just found that so interesting, and it's because of the culture. When I was growing up as a little girl, and I know many of you can identify this as seeing other girls or being a little girl yourself, we had to wear dresses. And that was just, you couldn't, and thank goodness for the women starting wearing pants. They were radicals. They were just radicals. And just today when I was at the McDonald's, I saw this young woman, I think it was a woman, a person, and they had a bunch of piercings along their nose. And it just, for me, it looks painful. I get really bad infections, so I shouldn't say that. My ears like special care, okay? So I would never give that extra special care to another part of my body. My body likes to stay whole. So sometimes that's my initial kind of negative thinking, oh, that looks really uncomfortable. But that's just my cultural conditioning, right? That's just because and I love that we live in a world now. So I can shift that. I can eliminate that negative thought, let it go, and choose a thought that supports me. Enlist a new thought that reminds me of connection. I live in a world where people can express themselves in ways that were never unthought of when I was younger. I'm grateful for that. Even if I don't understand it, I love that because you know what? That gives me the permission to show up as authentically me. So just like our clothing and our design, our thoughts are so shaped by that. So are you going to have thoughts that are always within culture? Or when things come up, those weather balloons, and an idea and a thought comes that you don't really want to have that's negative, are you going to go ahead and work to eliminate that and enlist a new thought? I'm going to encourage you to think about that. We can't always choose things unless it becomes an awareness. So if it comes into your awareness, I've got a choice right now. So there's cultural conditions, there's practical concerns. And then just also, our clothing is how we express ourselves, right? It's a creative expression. And so we choose something because we want to show ourselves a certain way. I like the color red. It was Valentine's Day this week. I think we can still wear a little red, so that's why I wore red today, right? I like earrings. I like to wear little things in my hair. To me, this expresses who I am. You all are so beautiful and expressing exactly how you are, whatever that looks like for you. And we all have different things that are important to us, our comfort, our ease. You be you. It's so beautiful. And our thoughts are creative. We choose our thoughts. And how many of us have allowed negative thinking to stop us from expressing creatively? How many of us have had a divine idea, an idea of how we want to express, and yet for some reason we think others are not going to approve? We think it's not our place. We think it's not who we are. What are other people, who do I think I am? What are other people going to think about me? And those are negative thoughts. That is not your true divine identity. Let that go. Just like, and Myrtle Fillmore said with negations, like a feather duster. Okay, well, that's not helpful. We can only change the thoughts when they become into our awareness. We have all sorts of stuff down here, below the level of awareness. But when we become conscious of them, I'm like, well, is that really true? And truthfully, maybe you don't sing, or you're going to have a bunch of people paying tickets to buy money to listen to you. Doesn't mean you don't have a voice to sing. You might not be a dancer and people are going to come watch you dance, but you can dance. If that's what's in your heart. So let go of those limiting ideas, those negative thoughts, and embrace those that help you move forward, help you create, help you be. Just like we choose our clothing. With and without guidelines and strictures, I personally do not suggest going like Heidi Klum. We're not in Germany. So, stay close. But anyway, but that is just some ideas I had about that. So when we're talking about clothing ourselves in garments of truth, it's clothing ourselves in ideas and thoughts and beliefs that support our creativeness, support our truth and our understanding of who we are. And part of that today, I want to go ahead and lead us into a meditation. This is something that Reverend Linda wrote, and she shared this at a World Day of Prayer. And I just really like it, so I thought I would share it with you because this is kind of inspired by Reverend Linda. Okay, so go ahead. If it's comfortable for you, I encourage you to close your eyes, relax your body in whatever way that works for you. If that's taking a breath, if it's just grounding your feet, if it's just unclenching yourself, whatever it is that helps you just relax and ease. I'm sure you're in just such a safe place among just wonderful friends who recognize and know the divine human that you are. Let's breathe into our hearts together, one with all that is. Silently affirm this truth to yourself. I know what I am. I am divine. I know what I am. I am divine. Silently repeat this affirmation to yourself and send it as a code of authority into your brain, into your nervous system, into your muscles, and into your bones, into every organ system, into your heart, throughout your body. I know what I am. I am divine. Because I know I am divine, I look never to my circumstance, which is changeable, but I look instead to the truth of my divine nature. I can never be limited by circumstances or by conditions. I can experience conditions, but they are not my identity. They do not belong to me. They do not define me, for I am divine. All that describes God describes my true nature, that I am. Whatever I need to be, I can be, because I am. I am divine wholeness, beauty, divine power and strength. I am divine grace, serenity, harmony, reconciliation, joy, audacity, passion, and courage. We take this understanding deeper now into thought and feeling as we devote the next few moments in silence, contemplating and realizing this truth. I know what I am. I am divine. So breathing now fully in the celebration of life and truth, I now appreciate my divine mind that knows its true nature. I appreciate my divine heart that knows its unity. I appreciate my divine body that knows its wholeness. I know what I am. I am divine, and so it is, and so it is. Okay, go ahead and bring your attention back up a little. If you've never had a chance to watch Reverend Linda, I highly recommend it. She's a powerhouse. So I'm going to give a little shout out to Reverend Linda for that. All right, so that's what we're grounding ourselves in. And the tools that we can use are affirmations and denials. And I have way more to say than I have time, so I'm going to, it's okay, no worries. So what are affirmations and denials? And I really appreciate, I'm going to start with denials. And I really appreciated the way that Reverend Charlie put this in your newsletter. So when denials are really just statements, or what I really appreciate the term negation. It's statements and just saying, this has no power over me. These thoughts and ideas, they have no power over me. That these circumstances, conditions, do not define my divine nature. That I am power and strength and love, I am connection will be something I would affirm. That's the truth of me. Leaving things behind. Often you'll hear that as part of a denial. Leaving the things behind. I often see it, like an Etch-a-Sketch, and you put an Etch-a-Sketch and you put like the thing, it's kind of like shaking it off. Yeah, even a little Taylor Swift rap, shake it off, shake it off. It's shaking something off, it's letting it go. This is how Reverend Charlie said it. When we speak of denials, we are not speaking of pretending that something is not happening. When using denials as a spiritual practice, we deny the thought that something or someone has power over our happiness or our good. It's the thought of something or someone. It's the consciousness of it. So that's what we're denying. We're just letting that go. We're letting that go. For me at work, there's just so much happening right now. And I really need to do some work. I've got some spiritual work to do. She's got some work to do, people. And I've been trying to get information. Excuse me. And I've just been sending out emails. I know it's because these people are so busy, I'm not hearing back. And I realized, one is in connection. These conditions are not, I'm still not getting answers, but I can remember my oneness. I can remember our connection. I can remember this all going to flow together. I can forgive them. And from that space, I have ideas about what to do. I'm enlisting positive thinking, positive thoughts to do what's mine to do. Sorry. Now, one thing that Reverend Linda talks about in her other book, How to Talk to God Without, How to Pray Without Talking to God, she talks a little bit about feelings. And this is what, feelings are not to be denied. Our feelings are something that's real and true, and they come and go, right? And I really appreciate what she said this. Feelings arise as indicators of belief. So when we have a feeling, we're feeling, I can get anxiety. I know one of my issues with what's going on is my anxiety about things. So when it comes up, I just can speak it down a little bit. I can know that there's divine order. I can know that there's connection. I can leaving that behind. And maybe there's still a little bit underlying, but I just keep going back. It's a constant practice. That's the thing. Practice makes progress. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for just constant progress. So that's why I'm working on that. So I really think that's important. And it's just realizing it. And I really kind of going back to the clothes metaphors, like cleaning out our closet, right? Negations are cleaning out your closet, cleaning out your thoughts. This thought isn't serving me anymore. Okay, let it go. I just get it away. Let it go. Eliminate that negative thinking. Maybe even just be willing to let it go. Be willing to be willing to be willing. And somewhere in there, and sometimes, I don't know about you, I've cleaned out my closet, and there's lots of things, right? This doesn't fit anymore. This is aspirational. This is something that, is sentimental. I do have a box of sentimental clothes. You ever seen Marie Kondo? And she's like, spark joy. She always says, keep things that spark joy. She's a organizational expert. But whatever resonates with you, those thoughts, But those things that aren't serving you, aren't reminding you of the truth of who you are, aren't garments of truth, thoughts of garments of truth, then let those go. Just be willing. And sometimes I can take things out of my closet and sometimes I can't. And that's okay. That's okay, but it's a process. And what happens when we take things out of our closet? What happens when we eliminate those negative thoughts? We have space. And that's the whole thing about denials and affirmations, or negations and affirmations. When you negate, when you let it go, you definitely want to take a moment and follow up with an affirmation. You definitely want to take that time. And like Reverend Charlie said, then we affirm that there is a power of good in our lives and it is unfolding in magnificent ways. So and like I said, really ground that stuff in that principle. You know, in that meditation, she lists all sorts of powers and principles. What is it? Do you want to really focus on love, connection, power, kindness, compassion, understanding? I don't know. Self-love? I don't know what it is, but there's something. So you fill that back up with that, but ground it in the truth of who you are. And as an expression of God, all of those things is the truth of you at the core. And if you have any doubts about it, ask each other. Look towards each other. See that here in the faces of each other. And they are not, again, affirmations are not about pretending things aren't happening. They are independent of outer circumstances. Again, this is from Reverend Linda. It's not about affirming something that's out here. It's not, if you're saying your wholeness and you've got a cold, or you're not feeling well, that's a really hard thing. So affirm, I am life. Underneath this, whatever's expressing as my physical body is something so much more. And I'll share one more thing that she has, and then I'll go ahead and close up here. So she talks about how when she doesn't feel well in her body, how she uses an affirmation. And she's like, if I don't feel well in my body, it's hard for me to affirm wholeness. It's hard for me to affirm that I'm well and healthy. So then she says, repeating whole and well when I do not feel well becomes wishful thinking rather than I can claim. So you can argue that I am whole and well is absolute truth, and it is, like she says. But what we really want to do is let's affirm something that you really can, your conscious mind isn't kicking up against it. And going, but no, that's not the experience I'm having in these circumstances. So like she says, God is ever renewing divine life. Therefore, I am ever renewing divine life. That is outside of circumstance. Life is thrumming through everything. Just like that beautiful song said. That is each of us an expression, however our body might be presenting at that moment. However the circumstances. You know, every cell in my body is pulsing with divine life. Another great affirmation. All that God is my true nature. All-encompassing wholeness is my true nature. So going back to true nature. Not that right now I'm experiencing, but true nature. So that's just, I really appreciate that. So we don't deny our feelings. We don't deny our circumstances. We just deny that those thoughts and ideas that are limiting, that we want to let go of and release, don't have power over us. We're going to gently let those go, and instead we're going to list new thoughts that are going to support us in being the divine, powerful beings that each and every one of us is. So that's what I encourage all of you to do this week. And, and do it in simple ways. I really encourage you to really think about something you really want to focus on and really bring it to. Myrtle Fillmore said about affirmative prayer, which is really what denials and affirmations are. This is our method of prayer. Acknowledge our oneness with God, claiming the ability that this gives, and expecting to have the things needed and conduct it to spiritual progress. That is what denials, negations, and affirmations do for us. So I encourage you all to do that this week, and as during this period of Lent. And I'll end with the affirmation I wrote. I am an agent of truth. I am a creative being full of life, energy, and power. And that is the truth for each of us. Thank you very much.